2018, 2020, 2023. What do these 3 years have in common? Well, in all of them, Spiderman was relevant. Not in films or media, which has been the meta since the 1950s, but in video games. Now, I've seen recently that Spiderman VR games especially have been getting a lot of attention. Finally good enough to let the user actually feel like they're behind the mask. But honestly, I don't think we necessarily need to go that far. In fact, I think a first-person Spider-Man game is going to do the trick. This journey starts off like any of my other journeys in Unreal Engine with a player controller. This one isn't much. In fact, it's probably one of the most dull and awful ones that I've ever come up with, maybe even seen. And that's just because it's boring, which Spider-Man is not supposed to be. And I did try to have an animated character for our Spider-Man, but getting the swing animations to look right just didn't work. So instead, I created unanimated swinging. Now, I've done swinging before, but I don't know how this works. Luckily, I got this from one of the only YouTube tutorials in this episode from the caveman himself, Unreal University. But with the swinging working, I added a couple more movement options like dashing and dashing. Now, combat is a little bit more difficult to handle, mainly because we don't have an animated character, and Spider-Man games have a flowy combo system. At least I think that's what they're called. So I started off with a quick dash that deals damage to anything that comes in contact with. Then moving on to some sort of jump attack. I don't really know what to call it. It's probably just like an uppercut, but on steroid. Now, the enemy doesn't do anything, like at all. So he's pretty much just an enemy that you can bully. So what a good game developer would do is give the enemy some AI before absolutely overpowering the player.
But that's what a nerd would say, and I'm not a nerd.
I made it so the player can attack the enemy from further away, sort of like a webzip. But for some reason the web doesn't work, so it just sort of goes like, oh look, it's Spider-Man. But it's a good thing that I'm all the way over here. What the heck? So at this point, I should probably give the enemy some motion because it's not really an AI yet. So I started by giving it the ability to move. So now the enemy's like a 4-year-old. I was going to use a regular walk animation for Mixmo, but when I saw this one, I just couldn't help myself. But the next thing I needed to add was a punch. So I wouldn't leave the enemy completely defenseless. So now they're like 9 years old. And it's a little bit inappropriate for Spider-Man to be beating up a bunch of 9-year-olds, so you two, here's a backflip, so now at least they're 12. But with the combat done, sort of, there's still a couple things I need to add, like stealth, but first I need a city for the player to swing around in. And I ended up just using one building model and placed it around the map, which had a whole bunch of road splines along it, which looks a little empty, especially considering that the Unreal Engine Marketplace has some of the best assets on the market. But what they don't show you is how much impact they have on your PC. Like, for example, the one Epic Games recommends is The Matrix. Literally. So, I'm still proud with what I ended up with. I placed a whole bunch of enemy groups around the city, although there aren't any civilians around, but I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to live here either. But the last thing I wanted to create was stealth. So I tried to create some sort of abandoned warehouse, but it kind of just looks like a PvP arena, which is fine, I'll work with it. It has perches and all that, but the webzip is really broken. To start off, I created a detection system for the egg, which my first attempt didn't really work out that well, because the egg I couldn't see 2 feet from the face. What the heck is going on?
Oh my gosh!
But luckily, I got it right the second time. Now, the point of stealth games is to stay in the shadows, so don't do anything cool in there, because nobody's gonna see it. And basically, if the AI gets hit and doesn't see the player, they die immediately. So, that gets that part out of the way. But in the Spider-Man games, when perched, there are 2 ways you can take down your opponent. To come down to your enemy, or to bring your enemy to you. Now, I already had the coming down to the enemy, and to make the enemy come to you was just the opposite, and didn't take me very long. So in result, we have a what could have been game, but it isn't really good, and that's all I have to say.